running off into the forest at the first sign of danger. You may have seen another black and white bird on the ground when we passed by the bongos. That was another saddle-billed stork. Now, we've already seen lots of animals already. We've had a great safari so far here in the forest. So let's head on out to a different area, to a place called the Safi River. Now, the Safi River is home to some of the more aquatic animals out here on the reserve. So you're going to want to keep your eyes on the water's surface for any bubbles, shadows, or even ripples that might mean that there's an animal swimming down there. Now on our right-hand side on these islands out here, there are some big gray birds known as pink-backed pelicans. Pink-backed pelicans get their name from the fact they'll get a pink tint to their back feathers during mating season. I like to think it's because they're blushing for their mates. And a pretty neat sight on your right-hand side, it looks like there are some Nile hippos out sunbathing. And if you look to your left, you'll also see some hippos in the water. Now, these Nile hippopotamus do spend typically most of their day underwater, sleeping. That's right, hippos typically sleep underwater during the day. They can do this because they can fold their ears back and close up their nostrils, holding their breath for several minutes at a time. They'll sink to the bottom of the riverbed, fall asleep, and when it's time to catch a breath, they'll rise to the surface, get a quick breath, sink right back down, and go back to sleep. Hippos don't usually come out on land until nightfall, and this is when they go foraging for food. They'll travel up to 6 miles looking for food because one hippo can eat around 100 pounds of food a night. Oh, and look up here on the upper portion of the Safi River. On your left, there are some Nile crocodiles. Now, these crocodiles are the largest reptiles in Africa. They can reach lengths of around 16 feet long. That is almost as long as a giraffe is tall. Now, a lot of people will ask me, Dean, how can you tell the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? Well, there's a couple of ways. The most well-known way is to look at their noses, or their snouts as they're called. Alligators have a more rounded U-shaped snout, while crocodiles have a more pointed V-shaped snout. But my favorite way to tell them apart is to look at how they smile at me. You see, when an alligator closes their mouth, they're only going to show you their top row of teeth, but crocodiles will show both their top and bottom teeth. Now it's time we make our way out to the savannah, home to some of the most iconic animals here in Africa. Our first sign we're getting close is this odd tree on your right-hand side. That weird-looking tree is known as the baobab tree. It looks a little funny because it looks like its roots are sticking up in the air, and that's actually where it gets its nickname, the upside-down tree, from. Now, the baobab tree actually remains leafless like that for around 9 months out of the year. It'll do this to conserve energy and water for the dry season. It looks like we've already spotted our first animals out here on the savannah. These recognizable animals with the black and white stripes are known as zebras. Specifically, these are the Hartmann's mountain zebras. Now I'm going to pause up here because you're also going to get a great view of a giraffe behind them. Now if you look at these zebras closest to us, you'll notice their stripes don't quite touch under their bellies. And that's how we can tell that they're the Hartmann's mountain zebras. Now we're going to be passing some giraffes up ahead as well. Now giraffes are the tallest animals in the world, reaching heights around 18 to 20 feet tall. They do get a bit of a head start on that height though, because when they're born, they'll already typically be around 6 feet tall. Now over here on your right-hand side is a great view of one of the largest antelopes. This is the largest antelope on the reserve, known as an eland. Elands can get up to heights around 6 feet to their shoulder and weigh as much as a small giraffe. Now you'll notice these elands have horns. One of the things that is a really unique behavior for elands is that during mating season, they'll run through trees and bushes to catch leaves on their horns and create a flower crown to show off for a mate. If you look over on your left-hand side, laying right in front of that rock ledge there are, looks like a couple of painted dogs out there. Now those are the African painted dogs. They are some of the most proficient hunters in the wild. They can communicate to each other using a wide variety of sounds. They're also very social animals. So when they come back from a successful hunt, they'll make sure their pups and their elderly eat first. Off in the distance to your left are some brown antelopes known as sable antelopes. Sable antelopes are the icons and emblems of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Unlike most antelopes that will run away from danger, sable antelopes will stand their ground, using their scimitar-like horns to defend even against lions and cheetahs. Now these animals on your left-hand side here are known as Ankole cattle, one of the domesticated species out here on the reserve. Ankole cattle also are known as the Watusi cattle, named after the Watusi people who originally domesticated them. Now those horns that they have can span a distance around 6 feet from tip to tip, but they are mostly hollow on the inside, so they're not as heavy as they may look. Now that we're a little bit closer to these giraffe out here, you can notice that these are actually Maasai giraffe, and we can tell they're Maasai giraffe because of their patches. Their patches almost have a rough shape to their edges. Unlike their cousins, the reticulated giraffe that you have pictures of on your spotting guides above your heads, who have more rounded, smooth edges to their patches. Now you may have noticed this giraffe eating on our left here, and if you caught a quick glimpse, you may have noticed their tongue. Like I said, giraffes and okapis have really long tongues. A giraffe's tongue can actually reach the lengths of around 18 inches long. And that's because they'll use that tongue like a finger. It's called a prehensile tongue. They can wrap it around the branches of the trees to strip the leaves off while leaving the woody part behind. That way they only eat the good stuff. Now off on your right-hand side, and off near those tall grasses, there's some small antelopes laying down with a tan back and white bellies. Those are springboks, and those larger gray antelopes are known as wildebeest. Now springboks get their name from the fact that they're very agile jumpers. They can jump 6 feet in the air straight for up, 13 feet across, and run at speeds around 55 miles an hour. That's only 5 miles an hour slower than the world's fastest land animal, the cheetah. Now you may have noticed that there were a lot of wildebeest out there, and it looks like there's going to be some more on your right-hand side here. Wildebeest are the second most populated species in the world. They are second only to humans. So they're known for their migration patterns and their massive herd sizes that can reach numbers of around 1.5 million wildebeest in a single herd. Now all these downed trees are a good sign we might be heading into elephant territory. Elephants like to knock down trees to get to the leaves they can't reach otherwise. And it does look like that our instincts are correct. Up ahead on your right-hand side, it looks like we're going to get a great view of an African elephant. Now, if you look at the ears of this African elephant, that's actually how we can tell it's an African elephant. Their ears almost come down to a point at the bottom, making their ears almost resemble the shape of the continent of Africa. Now, you'll notice that that elephant is using its trunk in a variety of ways. And it may look a little odd. A lot of people think that elephants suck water up in their trunk and that's how they drink it. Well, they do use their trunks to drink water. But what they do is it's almost like a compartment where they can close off their nostrils, suck the water up, hold it there, and then they'll spray it into their mouths. An elephant's trunk, just in their trunk, has more muscles than the entire human body, so they can use it for just about everything, including lifting large logs to play with, like their sticks and toys.
Oscar?
Now this path is going to take us directly through the red clay pits. A great place to spot animal tracks because this clay is nice and soft. So it's easy for animals to leave traces like footprints behind. So keep your eyes out. We'll see if anything's passed through here recently. I see some elephant footprints on the ground on the left, and there were some tusk marks on the right. That's a good sign. We might be on the tail end of an elephant herd that passed through here. Now, those marks aren't as recent as I'd like them to be, so I'm not sure if we'll catch up to them or not. But it's not uncommon for elephants to leave tusk marks in the red clay like that, because elephants actually will dig their tusks into the red clay walls like that, breaking off chunks of it so they can eat it. Sounds kind of gross, but elephants eating that red clay is kind of the same as us humans taking a multivitamin, because that red clay has minerals and nutrients in it that they don't get in their daily diet. So it's a way to support their daily nutrition. Oh, it does look like that we found the herd, and it does look like there's a baby elephant off to your left. Now these elephants out here, because there's so many of them, are most likely all females. Now I say that because male elephants tend to be a lot more solitary. Elephants live in a matriarchy. This means that their herds are going to be led by the oldest female. So when male elephants are young, they will typically leave their herd and go off on their own. Once in a while, they'll also find maybe another male elephant that's young or two to form a little bachelor group. But female elephants, on the other hand, when they're young, will typically stay by their mother's side for the rest of their lives. Now, if you look over to your left-hand side on the island here, it looks like that some flamingos have made this island their home. Now, these are greater flamingos. Greater flamingos are the largest and the palest pink of the flamingo species. Now, when flamingos hatch, they hatch with gray feathers, not pink feathers. And they'll typically keep those gray feathers around the first 2 years of their life. Now, does anybody on board know how flamingos get their pink feathers? That's right, shrimp. So it's their diet in general. They'll eat things like algae and other small crustaceans as well, including shrimp, that are high in beta-carotene. And it's that beta-carotene that gives them their pink coloration. Good answer. Now, I know we saw a black rhino earlier. There are other types of rhinos, like the white rhinos off on your right-hand side. I don't know if we'll get a better view, so I'll pause here for you. Now, white rhinos and black rhinos technically don't get their name from the color of their skin. Their skins are both gray. It's hard to tell the color of their skin, though, because rhinos will roll around in mud pits like the one on your left-hand side here, known as a mud wallow. Rhinos have thick skin, but sensitive skin. So rolling around this mud will help coat their skin in that mud, which will then dry in the sun, and that'll help protect their skin against the sun, insects, and even parasites. Now, hiding in the shade on your left-hand side under the trees out there, there is a cheetah or two. Now, cheetahs are the fastest of the land animals, like I said. They can reach speeds of around 60 miles an hour in just under 3 seconds. Now, they can do this by using their semi-retractable claws that they have, which means they can't fully pull those claws back. They're always out a little bit. Which means that they can get good traction on the ground, which will help them get up to those speeds quickly, and they take off running. Once they're at those high speeds, it can be difficult to make turns, so they'll use those long tails that they have to help them keep their balance. Now, cheetahs, unlike other big and large cats, tend to actually be more active during the day because they have a natural adaptation that helps them out when they're hunting. They have dark patches of fur underneath their eyes, also known as tear stains, that will actually help cut down the glare of the sun, giving them an advantage to hunt during the day, while most other big and large cats will hunt at night. Now, coming up on the hillsides to your right-hand side, there are a couple of other type of antelopes out there. These are water bucks. Now, water bucks get their name because they're a type of antelope that drinks an unusually large amount of water. So, most antelopes will travel for food and water and even migrate, like I was talking about with the wildebeest. Well, water bucks will typically find a permanent water source and make that permanent water source their home, and very rarely ever travel far from it. white rhinos, and now that we can see their faces, I can talk about where they get their name from. Like I said, white rhinos and black rhinos actually have gray skin, but white rhinos actually get their name from their mouth shape. You see, it was a misunderstanding and mistranslation of the Afrikaans word "vite" that gave them their names. The word "vite" in Afrikaans means wide, and this was referring to their wide mouths that they used to graze the grasses on the ground. Now, if you look on the ground on your right-hand side, there are a clutch of ostrich eggs out there. Now, each one of those eggs will weigh around 3 to 4 pounds. Now, it's not uncommon to see ostrich eggs without the ostrich parents because, well, those eggs are really hard to crack open, so animals that would typically want to eat those eggs, putting those eggs at risk and danger, really don't want to mess with them. They're just not worth the effort. Now, when I say they're hard to crack open, I really do mean it. Each one of those eggs can withstand the full weight of a grown adult human. That means any one of you could stand on one of those eggs, put your full weight on it, and you wouldn't even crack the shell a little bit. Now, we've made our way to the edge of the reserve to an area known as Magadi Glen, home to our warden's outpost. I figured we could swing by and see if the warden's home. Oh, I don't see the warden, but I do see the warden's roommates. Those little furry animals on your left-hand side are Nigerian dwarf goats. Now, these little goats are full-grown adults and won't get much bigger than this. They are the other domesticated species out here on the reserve other than the Ankole cattle. Now, they make a great agricultural resource because they produce a sweet, nutritious milk that's highly valued by the villagers, so their milk can be sold in the village, creating an additional source of income.